Alright, right, I am here. Qualifying is underway shortly. They started a couple of minutes earlier than I thought that they might. So I just need to make sure I've got all my... and it's probably also worth running through the order a little bit while people get ready on their outlap. By the way, this qualifying looks very, very wet. Very, very wet indeed. Which should probably mean that lap times continue to lower throughout the whole session as we see the Williams, I think that was, leaving the pit lane maybe before anybody else, closely followed by the Haas there, the Kick Sauber now on its way out. Right, yeah, standings. This is what we to see. So don't worry, because they're still on the outlap, unless somebody pulls off, you know, a Lance Stroll or something. We'll make sure we get them by the time the lap is starting. Here you go. This is what we wanted to see. Going into this one, Snipes has a lead that is unassailable today. It is round 6, I think, now of the championship here at Austria. He has a 32-point gap out in front over second place. Tolu Golden Egg Fryer is then in third place with 31 points separating him from Tolu too. So that top 3 look really, well, the top 2, I guess, look really, really distant compared to the rest of the field. But then you've got 39 for Golden Egg Fryer, 33 for Shelby, 31 for Testwill, 30 for Easy, 30 for Pinkweb. Then things start to get pretty competitive and pretty interesting, actually. I believe that Igor... Oh, I need to turn things on. There we go. I believe that Igor was the first one out, so this ought to be the first lap time of the day. To the end of Sector 2, the Williams is up to a 53 point something. Doesn't look like the fastest thing you've ever seen in your life, to be honest. But it's, you know, persisting it down. Whoa, just about hanging on for dear life, and Igor crosses the line then. The first qualifying lap, I should say, of tonight's session is a 1:17.245. I think... oh no, yeah, there was a Kick Sauber. It was Perez, who has just set a lap. LTK, Tarrier is up next, but that is not going to be anything like quick enough for a 1:21.493. Interesting, everybody opting for the full wet tyres at the moment as well, apart from Shelby and Testwill, interestingly enough. So we'll have a look at Shelby here as he makes his way to the end of this lap. What's it going to be for the McLaren? Well, in fact, I missed Testwill's lap as well. A 1:15.2 for the V-Carb, and then a 1:16.1 for the McLaren is way out in front compared to the rest of the field. So all these wet tyre runners, I mean, really, just getting a feel maybe for the car, a feel for the conditions. I am hearing that the weather should have dried up a little bit by the time we are racing, so it's just going to be a wet qualifying session tonight. That's not bad from Stormbringer there, a 1:16.6, fastest of the wet tyre runners so far. This doesn't look particularly quick, to be honest, from Arbon. It isn't really. A 117.3 is dead last until Skullkiller just managed to cross the line and put in a 118.2. So some of these drivers definitely struggling with the awkward conditions around the Red Bull Ring here in Austria. Agbala Jobs then saw his teammate do very, very well on those intermediates. What's Agbala Jobs thinking here in the McLaren with those wet... Oh, in fact, what's the point? I mean, we can ride on board, but I've just seen the lap time, a 120 something. It's going to be 24. Yeah, okay. All right. Never mind. Plenty of time left. You can go again. You know, you're going to bother completing this lap? I feel like some of these guys maybe went out, did a bit of an outlap, and then just brought it back in once they realised they were potentially on the incorrect compound. It's very, very hard to end up in a situation where the wet tyre is actually preferable on this year's game. Even when it's really, really heavy rain, it does not take long at all for the track to dry out enough to make those intermediates worthwhile. So it's a 115.2 currently at the top of the leaderboard from Test Will, a 116.1 from Shelby. And in fact, Shelby is going again here. We're going to see the end of this lap because it was about 8/10 up on his previous lap time. And there it is, a 115.3. It's very, very close from Shelby. But look at that from Test Will. Knocked nearly a second out of his previous lap time, a 114.4. Anybody who is still out on those wet tyres just needs to get into the pits, fit the intermediates, and try again, because this is not going to work, I fear. Snipes, I think this is Snipes' first lap on the Inters, so let's have a look. His previous lap time was a 117.6. Let's see. He's 1.4 seconds down on his previous lap time so far, so that's pretty quick, and there'll be plenty of time to be gained throughout the rest of the lap as well. There you go. Infinity has just set a lap time on the Inters, a 1:15.5, and it is good enough to be way ahead of the wet tyre runners. But Snipes, our current championship leader, running away with the championship, really, it has to be said. Looking to put in a competitive lap time here and end up near the front of the grid. But you've got to imagine that with 10 minutes left to go in the qualifying session, grip levels will only improve from here. I wasn't paying attention when he got to the end of Sector 2 to know how this lap was really shaping up, but it looks fast. Looks faster. And it certainly is. That's P2 for Snipes. Look at Pinkweb, by the way, managing to get himself up there on the wet tyres. Congratulations. But a 1:14.5 for Snipes. Only just missing out on provisional pole Test Will with that 1:14.4. Still currently has his hands on that. We just saw Perez put in a 1:14.9. I think there are some drivers who just haven't woken up to smell the coffee just yet. They haven't really realised what's going on with these tyres. What on earth was coming out the back of the Kick Sauber? Look at that. Seems illegal, doesn't it? It's like some sort of parachute mechanism. Incredible. Bringing a big development package to round 6. Tolu taking it easy. Just about. What about Tarrier then? How fast is this feeling at the end of Sector 2? It's about a second and a half, not a tenth and a half, but a second and a half down on his previous lap time. So this will be relatively quick from LTK Terrier. We will ride on board. Stormbringer has just put himself on provisional pole position. The Ferrari with a 1:14.2 as it crosses the line. This looks quick from LTK Terrier, who's approaching the start-finish line. Is it going to be fast enough? You better believe it is. We have a new Haas on the front row of the grid. LTK Terrier provisionally on pole position with a 1:14.1. Those lap times are coming down and down. People are understanding now what tyre they should be running, and the conditions on the track are just giving a little bit more grip. This is not a massive improvement here, unfortunately, for Nobbit. What? How do I say that? Nobbilt. But it is an improved lap time. At least it looked it at the end of Sector 2. It might not be enough to clear Tolu to... Oh, no, it will be now. Look at that. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, it will be. It didn't look that quick before. A 1:13.2. I mean, it's massively faster than everybody else out in the field. So, there you go. Ignore all of the information that you're getting on the screen. Because it's a lie. That is an invalidation for LTK, but it's actually an in-lap, so it doesn't even matter. Information on screen is nonsense. The Kick Sauber provisionally on pole with a 1:13.2. Infinity. Any response? Well, it's a response, but it's not quite good enough. 1:14.1, very nearly a 1:14.2. Good enough for P4 for the moment. Lots of people still only have that wet tyre lap time in there. There we go. Brand new pole sitter provisionally is Test Will. 1:13.2, just marginally ahead of Nobbilt there. Agbala Jobs puts in, I think that was a 1:15.4. Not bad at all. Skinner, I think, will be approaching the end of the lap again. Says that he's half a second up, but he's probably way more than half a second up. So we'll see what sort of lap time the Aston Martin driver can set. Forget about it then. What about Verklempt? Still yet to set a lap time on those intermediates. See the Mercedes very close behind here into the final couple of corners. Just about manages to keep it all between the white lines, and Verklempt brings it over the line. That's a 1:13.7, pretty good for Alpine there. P4 currently on the second row of the grid, but again, these lap times, they're going to improve all over the place. Lap times are going to come down. We have less than 5 minutes to go for tonight's qualifying session. I think Snipes is actually on a lap here, and it could be a very, very fast lap. We might see the championship leader really put a marker down here. All eyes on the Haas when it crosses the start-finish line. We just had a new pole sitter there with Pink Webber, 1:13.0. But look at that from Snipes. Never mind a 1:13.0, a 1:12.7. 6 laps he's put in so far now on this qualifying session. A 1:12.7 for Snipes. Good enough to be on pole for the moment. Has Test Will got anything to say about it? I spent some battery on this lap. Ooh. Seemed a little bit wide there. And that was a little bit shaky, and it's all gone a little bit wrong. If that is a lap from Test Will, it's not going to be quick enough to be an improvement, you wouldn't think. What about Shark, though? Sitting down the order a fair way. Bringing it into the pits, I think, there. Yeah. Yep. Mel still has the wet tyres on. Can you believe it? Get the car into the pits. Please pit. Incredible. I'm not sure what's going on with Mel. But this won't be good enough. I mean, it's good enough for P14, but real fear there that Mel might be sitting way down the back of the grid unless he can fit those inters for that final lap. There is a Ferrari. No. There isn't a Ferrari. Verklempt, though, has just crossed the start-finish line. There we go. We just caught the back end of that. Two Alpines now on the first and second row of the grid at the moment. P2 and P3 for Pinkweb and Verklempt, respectively. I do think when you get these wet qualifying sessions, though, it can really can shake up the order a little bit sometimes. Although, having said that, Snipes looks to have a very commanding lead at the front, but never mind that. Just goes to show you what I know. Pinkweb, a 1:12.3. Now, I don't think, based on the amount of time left, I don't think that Pinkweb will be able to get the car back around. Well, definitely not. I think maybe he's completely run out of fuel too. Won't be able to get the car back around and do another lap. So it's P1 or worse, obviously, currently for Pinkweb. We'll need to get out of the way of these cars approaching, though, you would think. Okay, all kinds of nonsense is happening there. Snipes currently on an outlap. LTK is on a recharged lap, I think, ready to go again right at the end of the session. Easy, who was driver of the day, actually, last week out. Is also on a bit of a cool down, ready to go again. Hopefully we'll get over the line in time. Perez has just started his final flying lap. And I think maybe Nobilt was able to start one there as well. Easy then does well, no, that was no. That was a recharge lap for sure. It wasn't particularly quick, but does manage to get over the line in time, ready to set another fast lap. Right, we're gonna have to ride on board with Shelby because I'm not sure where everybody is on the track. You can see lots and lots of drivers currently out there on the circuit trying to set one final lap time. 12 seconds left to begin a flying lap, so maybe a couple of those runners at the back, if they are looking to put one more lap in, will have the opportunity. Verklempt puts himself onto pole position for now. 1:12.30 from the Alpine. It's an Alpine 1-2 at the moment, but here comes Shelby with a 1:13.0. That's not quite good enough, but it's good enough for P5. What does Snipes have to say about any of that? He's very, very close to the Ferrari in front here that is sliding around and going very, very sideways through some of these corners. Is this going to be quick enough for Snipes? It looks like he's about 4/10 down on his best lap time so far. That is not exactly good enough for pole. Definitely not now when Testwill has put in nearly a 1:12 dead, 1:12.001. The Ferrari gets out of the way and Snipes will cross the line. It's a 1:12.4 for the championship leader. That is not fast enough, but it is good enough for P4. So currently it looks like Testwill will be starting from pole position, but this man might have something to say about it. LTK Tarrier crosses the line. It's a 1:12.3. A 1:12. No, it was invalidated anyway. It was invalidated. So there you have it then. Testwill will be lining up on pole position. Sorry, I have a Twitch bot to ban. Testwill lining up on pole position, and then we have an Alpine in P2 and an Alpine in P3. Great session from Verklempt and Pinkweb. Snipes has to settle for the second row of the grid tonight. We'll be starting the Austrian Grand Prix from P4. As we mentioned, a great lap time from Test Will at the end there, 112.0, more than 3/10 ahead of his nearest competitor. We'll start the Austrian Grand Prix from pole position. Verklempt lines up alongside on the front row of the grid in the Alpine. And then reading down the rest of the grid to P10, you have Pinkweb, Snipes, Nobilt, Easy, LTK Terrier, Shelby, Infinity, and Perez in the Kick Sauber rounds out that top 10. Back to dry conditions, though, for the race. So the drivers aren't going to have to put up with very much of that. I wonder what's the chat saying? How are people feeling about that? Pinkweb feeling a little bit gutted that might have had the opportunity to take pole position if you could have put a final lap time in, but P3 is pretty good. Going to have some tough defending to do, you would think, with Snipes just behind. Full grid, though, tonight. That's cool, isn't it? Definitely are some reserve drivers in here. I'm probably going to mess it up if I try and guess exactly who that is, but I think there's one or two. But a pretty strong turnout in Austria. Tier 2. We have seen some funky strategy calls, I think it's fair to say, this season. Not sure if we will see too much of that tonight. It looks like 23 minutes past is when the race will get going. So a couple of minutes now to go grab yourselves a drink, grab yourselves a snack before we begin with the race. So again, just while we wait for the drivers to get themselves ready, because it is not long now before we'll be starting tonight's race. Going into round 6, Snipes has a 32-point lead over P2. He is leading the championship and will be leading the championship after tonight's race as well. Tolu currently in P2 on 70 points. Jeff in P3 with 39. Shelby, Testwill, Easy, Pinkweb, Soul Demon, even Arbon and Igor are in the mix, really, for the next few positions down the order. So, plenty of things can happen. Right, it's not going to tell me when people are ready and up, so I just need to keep my eyes peeled for the moment. By the way, I should have just had a look there. Tyres look pretty consistent now. Everybody starting on the mediums by the looks of it. Couple of hard runners mixed in with the grid. Well, I would have thought they'd have been going by now. Here we go, down to 5 red lights for the Austrian Grand Prix. And it is lights out and away they go. Sorry about all that weird smoke stuff happening, but we saw a Why is Skullkiller in first? Don't worry about that. We saw a reasonable start from the front one as Testwill manages to pull out a little bit of a lead. It's Pinkweb and Snipes going side by side through turn 1. They will be side by side through the little kink of turn 2 as well. Let's see how this one plays out. Almost 3 wide there going into turn 3. This is the most difficult part of the race circuit, to keep it alongside each other, but doing a good job. And Verklempt is going to be under threat from both of them. There you go, Verklempt getting overtaken by his teammate, but not making life quite as easy for Snipes in the Haas. Takes the inside line there, and we still have the 2 Alpines in P2 and 3, but they've done a little switch around, I think, in the first few corners. Let's get some stuff up. Everyone's alive. Not sure what on earth happened to Skullkiller's time on the board there, but anyway, he is down in 17th place. We do know that. Now, you're likely to see a bit of a long train, really, throughout most of Austria. Although, to be fair, look at the little gap that Testwill has opened up on the cars behind already. Pinkweb, Verklempt doing a little bit of battling with Snipes in the Haas behind. And already now on lap 2, it looks like Testwill has a nearly 2-second advantage over second place. Verklempt should have the rear wing open here in a moment. It's a pretty good exit from turn 3, to be honest, for Pinkweb. I don't think he's going to get too close to his teammate there. We will see Snipes try to pull up. Not Snipes, excuse me, Easy. Snipes lost a lot of positions. Easy tried to pull up alongside Verklempt, but not quite get anything done. Snipes and Shelby are actually going to be going side by side through the long left-hander. Shelby makes the inside line count, and Snipes down to P6 now off the start. The McLaren on the hard tyre also gaining spots here, and now up to P5. Lots of little clusters of cars here. We've got Pinkweb, Verklempt in P2 and P3, both the Haas's, P6, P7. We have Red Bulls in P10 and P11. Bit of an awkward day for Mercedes, though, so far, it's fair to say. But very early days, 36 laps, of course, to get through here at Austria, and time penalties are very likely to be a factor. Everybody is in, everybody else is DRS, apart from Golden Eggfryer, who seems to be having a bit of a bad time of it. In fact, the 2 Aston Martins are down in P19 and P20 currently. Eggfryer is sitting in P3 in the championship, very nearly gets turn 3 all kinds of wrong there. Just about manages to keep it all together. He's going to burn all the battery that he has available to just try and maintain pace with the drivers in front, but does now get overtaken by his teammate. And from P3 in the championship to P20 in the race for Eggfryer. Bit of an awkward one to start today then. That awful smokestack. What is happening with that? We just can't ever show that camera, maybe. Ooh, Snipes is going to be very close to Easy there on the exit of turn 1. You would think Perez losing a little bit of time on the exit to the cars in front could be under threat from Tolu here, although Tolu not burning any battery, not looking to make that move happen just yet. Look at all the smoke coming from the cars in front. Nice tight line for Tolu. Was that a bit of lag as well? A little bit of teleportation happening there. I'm not sure exactly what's going on. Currently, Snipes looking to get the move done on Easy. The V-Carb and the Haas come very, very close together through that tight right-hander, and now, yeah, Snipes just makes the position count. Hangs it out in front. He's in P5 for now. We have seen some time penalties already, and unfortunately, it's gone to both of the Aston Martins at the back. I think Tolu may have disconnected here. Is that what's happened to the Red Bull? Might be a disconnect from Tolu, which would be very unfortunate. That's the man who is currently in P2 in the championship. Yeah, just now been overtaken by his teammate, and I think is maybe having some problems tonight so far. That was very wide from Snipes there. Got to be one of the 3 warnings. Shelby thinking about that move on Verklempt. Look at Testwill though, way out in front. Fantastic start to the race for Testwill. Hopefully gets the strategy calls right, gets the pit stops right, and looks in a pretty solid commanding position so far. But as I say, time penalties can come into effect. Shelby thought about the outside there, but there's not really enough grip and space to get around the outside of the Alpine through that one. This is going to be pretty close, though, you would think, over the start-finish straight, if you can hold it all together through this twisty final Sector 3. Oh, I can't look at that camera ever. Yes, Tolu. How do I do it? I'm not very good at this stuff. Are you my friend? Yes, I'm going to invite you. Hopefully that worked. Well, hopefully that's given Tolu the opportunity to get back into the race. We hope. Look at this, the kick Sauber of Nobel going side by side with LTK Terrier into turn 3. Just about manages to hold the inside line there, Nobel, and does come out. The victor holds on to P9. Lots of time penalties are happening now, though, through the field. Snipes, by the way, in the midst of all that happening, has moved himself up to P3 and is pretty close enough to think about, excuse me, getting the overtake done on Pinkweb. So Verklempt has had a bit of a shocker somewhere. He's also got a 3-second time penalty now to his name. Only 6 laps in, and the time penalties are really starting to come out. I think that Tolu is back with us now, so hopefully he can get back into DRS range of the Mercedes of Shark in front. And looks like he has done that. There you go, the rear wing open for the Red Bull. Hopefully Tolu can make something good of this race now tonight. Easy then, look at that. Nice and easy. Up the inside of the Alpine into turn 3. Doesn't give him much room to play with at all. The V-carb just plants the car in the middle of the circuit, really, and takes P5 from Verklempt, who has dropped down from, I think, 2nd place on the grid with that 3-second time penalty. Pretty awful start, I think it's fair to say. I think Verklempt would admit that. 2.5 seconds, more than 2.5 seconds worth of a lead now for Testwill. All Testwill really needs to do is just keep the car in the white lines, not get any time penalties, not do anything crazy, and should have a commanding position to play with through the rest of this race, you would feel. Look at how close Snipes is here to the Alpine. Not going to press down on the battery for this straight, and I believe that Pinkweb was probably burning a little bit there to try and maintain something of an advantage, but the battery disparity is real now going up into turn 3. Snipes was pressing down on the button for a moment, but still just biding his time, waiting for that moment now on the next straight. A nice clean exit from here. Find the traction, get the power down. Pinkweb has hardly any battery remaining at all, but is managing to do just about a good enough job and keep Snipes behind. So good driving so far from Pinkweb, but that position there at P2 is going to be under serious threat, you would think, over the next few laps at least. Here is Tolu, having made his way back into the lobby. Staring down Shark in P10. Almost up to 100% battery charge. So plenty of energy to play with here for the Red Bull. Nobel, by the way, has just... Oh no, Verklempt has had to come into the pits. That must be a wing change or something. We'll try and keep half an eye on that, I think, in a moment. Tolu, though, still close to the Mercedes. Unless some of these people are going for a 2-stop, that would seem... I mean, there's more than one driver in the pits. Was that a long time there for Verklempt? Was it a wing change? I did miss it in the end. How close everybody is. Up in front, there's a little bit of a gap now from P5 to P6. Easy has about a 1.5 second gap to Nobel in P6 behind, but very, very close. Those 3 drivers in front. Pinkweb, Snipes and Shelby battling out for those podium positions. Tolu has got the move done on Shark, by the way, in the midst of all that. Down the back of the field, we do have some people who have now fit the hard tyres. They must be going for a two-stop. There's no way they're taking the hards 26 laps. So two stops are a thing down the back of the field at the moment. Lots and lots of time penalties are happening. Not really for the guys out in front, though. Shelby, on the hard tyres, has managed to keep pace with these guys. That could bode really well for later on for Shelby. Because by now, these hard tyres are probably feeling a little bit nicer than the mediums that everybody else has. A little bit of a lock-up for Snipes in front as he thought about the inside, but the gap wasn't really there on Pinkweb. But now Snipes and Pinkweb very nearly side by side into that long sweeping left-hander. And look at that, so much traction on the outside for the Haas. Snipes, the championship leader, does get the move done. Not the most conventional part of the racetrack, moves up into P2, but is now pretty low on, oh, in fact, Pinkweb's coming into the pits. Yeah, getting those medium tyres off. So there are definitely two-stop ideas going on here, I think. Pinkweb opting to get the tyres off, probably why he didn't really fight the overtake that much. That was probably a warning there for Snipes. I feel like we've seen two warnings for Snipes now. Maybe the one-stop is just not possible here, but you would think some of these guys, Tolu, Easy, Snipes, you think that they're thinking about it at this point. Not sure what kind of graphical glitch that is, but something's happening tonight. Around about a third of the way then through the Austrian Grand Prix. Big gap really from Tolu to Easy, 4th to 5th, but Easy is maintaining pace with Shelby and Snipes in front. Any other interesting battles going on? Everyone's getting a little bit spread out. The pit stops and stuff seem to have had a bit of an impact. Well, there is a bit of a change up in top because Snipes and Testwill will both bring their cars into the pit lane. They're going to fit those hard tyres. Not sure how long they're planning to take them, but you would imagine that it's not 24 laps. Easy, though, is opting to stay out on the mediums for now. Shelby is the new race leader, which we knew was going to happen, really, because he started on the hards and put in a really solid shift to maintain pace with the race leaders. Here was the previous race leader, Testwill, now on those hard tyres, and does still have a pretty good advantage over some of the guys behind, but Klimt is actually pretty close now after the, well, it's like a 3-lap undercut, isn't it, really? But does have that time penalty to contend with as well. But there's another Alpine there. Snipes not too far behind as well. You can see him in this little train chasing down Testwill in the V-carb. Easy is now getting the tyres off, so I think maybe just the one-stop is completely unviable here in Austria, because you can't imagine that any of these drivers are thinking about taking the hards then to the end of the race. We'll wait and see, but Eggfryer is one of the last medium runners now, along with Tolu, in fact, who have now done 12 laps on those mediums. There's another 3-second time penalty, this time for Stormbringer in the Ferrari, who does overtake Easy in the pits, but you can see Easy coming out there just behind Agbala Jobs. In fact, Agbala Jobs goes very, very wide there, and Easy makes the traction count with his competitor running off track, gets the move done up into P11, and he's just going to try and gain some places, get back in the running, really, because in that time, so many cars have slotted into the gap between where Snipes is in P7 and Easy in P11. Look at Snipes here trying to get the move done into the final 2 corners. That is audacious, but it does work. The Haas up to P6 with the overtake done on the Verklempt. Doesn't have DRS here though. Hopefully we'll have it on the next straight, just to try and defend his position a little bit. Let's see. Yeah, can now get that rear wing open. So good positioning. Hey Blitz, how you doing? Good work really from Snipes there. As we start lap 14 with Tolu leading the Grand Prix. Now that's interesting. Shelby did what, 13 laps on the hard tyres and has now fit the mediums. So many people are opting for a 2-stop strategy here at Austria, but you know, they might well just think rightly that 1 stop is impossible. I'm not sure if Tolu and Eggfryer agree. Yeah, I'm doing good, Blitz. I'm doing good. I'm not sure if Tolu and Eggfryer agree, because Tolu has 13 laps on these mediums, not even thinking about pitting at the moment. Eggfryer does now bring the Aston Martin into the pits, though. I think if Tolu's taken the mediums 14 laps, and he's still putting reasonably solid laps in, Tolu's probably going to be looking at this 1-stop now tonight. That would really give everybody something to think about. I mean, maybe the others are as well, but it just feels like they've got way too many laps to try and get through. On the hards, look at Snipes getting very, very close to Pink Web in the Alpine going into turn 3. Is going to have the DRS open down this straight on that overtake button as well, trying to burn all the battery remaining in that Ferrari engine. Can't quite get the move done, goes for the little switchback, and they are going to be side by side. We've seen Snipes do this once before to an Alpine tonight around the sweeping left-hander. Does manage to maintain his traction around the outside. It's another great move from the championship leader. Snipes puts himself up to P3. Ooh, that's unfortunate. There's a 3-second time penalty for Pinkweb. Won't be the final time penalty that we see tonight, though. You can already see there are plenty of time penalties spread throughout the field. I think the goal for Pinkweb now, because Snipes looks very, very fast, is just going to be to try and maintain pace with the Haas driver in front. Tolu starts lap 16 on track, not from the pit lane, still with the medium tyres. So obviously, as soon as Tolu brings the car into the pits, he's gonna drop down the order, but you would think everybody else needs to come into the pits again. So right now, it looks like maybe just on account of a strong strategy call, Tolu might have the best chance of winning the race, really, tonight. Which you think will be pretty unfortunate for our pole sitter test wheel. We see him approaching the back of the Red Bull there. We see Tolu pulling off to the side of the track. He is now going to come into the pits and fit, you would think, a new set of hard tyres. Test wheel takes his position once again at the lead of the race. P1 for the Austrian Grand Prix is back with the V car. About 2 seconds to Snipes behind. And Tolu makes it out. Where is he going to come out? He's going to be, well, behind that little cluster of cars. Is he actually going to clear the Aston Martins here all the way at the back? I think so, yes. Yeah, he's going to just come out behind the Mercedes of Infinity. Will probably benefit from some DRS before too long, but that's like a lot of traffic to deal with. I mean, look at what's going on up here. The cars were very nearly 4 wide at one point. All sorts of jostling for position going on there. Who doesn't have the DRS in this lot? I think it's, yeah, it is Perez in the Kick Sauber, who couldn't get the rear wing open, had no battery remaining. Got that McLaren on his inside, does just about manage to make the traction count. That was a very aggressive sweep from LTK Terrier in front, but does manage to hang out in front of Mel there with that move. Verklempt now gets a 3-second time penalty out near the front of the race. Ooh, Stormbringer. I think it's a retire in the pit lane. Yeah, it's a retire in the pit lane for Stormbringer. I was trying to see what happened there, but I feel like the Ferrari has just had enough for one reason or another. Ooh, Albon getting very, very close to Verklempt. We're back to having not much field spread really now between a lot of these drivers. It's only really when you get down to Shark in P10 where there's a noticeable gap. Although easy with over a second and a half gap to the car in front, namely Pinkweb. That is probably a little bit disappointing. Testwill, though, is still maintaining his advantage. He's growing his advantage out in the lead of the Grand Prix. Nobel actually might try and get a move done on the championship leader here. What about this from the Kick Sauber? With the DRS open, pressing down on the battery, going into turn 3. Yeah, gets the move done. Nice and clean. He is going to have snipes probably coming back at him, but not just yet on this straight. So Nobel is going to be involved, you would think, in some of these high-tier battles. Now, what happened to Tolu? Because this is where things are going to be really interesting. So let's have a look at the gap to the leader for a moment. Tolu basically won't care. Oh, my goodness. And I just see the Williams of Mel coming up the inside of Tolu there and a little bit of contact happening. All Tolu needs to do is maintain a pit stop distance to the leader. Currently, he is at, what, 20.5 seconds? I mean, I think that's going to be good enough. But they might have a little bit of fighting and battling to do come the end of the race. But really, Tolu down in P12, that is not representative of his actual position in this race so far. Snipe still not got the move done on Nobel, who has put himself into P2 pretty effectively here so far. Easy with the straight line speed advantage over the Alpine with the DRS and goes up the inside. Hopefully everybody keeps it nice and clean. It is nice and clean, and Easy finds the traction and does get the move done. I don't think that Pinkweb will think about having to go back at him through the left-hander here. Will not, and in fact will drift back a little bit as he gets stuck in the dirty air just behind. Scott, thanks so much for the follow. Welcome on in. Yeah, that gap to the leader is coming down for Tolu. Shelby, by the way, is, I think, the first driver to make the second pit stop, and it looks like Shelby has fit the hard tyres with a view to taking them now to the end of the race. So pitting lap 21 is going to come out of the pits, unfortunately, way back in 17th position. But the guys in front are going to have to bring their cars in at some point as well. Looked like a really strong start earlier from Shelby, though. Oof, oof. Little bit of a sideways motion for Albon, but he does just about manage to keep the Red Bull pointing in the right direction as he approaches, what is this now, the start of lap 22. Less than a second behind Igor in the Williams in front. But Verklempt is pretty close to Albon as well. It's been a... I mean, I think the Alpine boys would agree. It's been ever so slightly disappointing just because they now have their time penalties. They've dropped away from P2 and P3 where they started after a really strong qualifying session. But there's still the opportunity to make good in this race. And in fact, even with, I think it is only 3 seconds. Oh my goodness, it's 12 seconds for Verklempt. It's over, isn't it? It's over for Verklempt. P2, I think Verklempt started this race. 12 seconds. Maybe we should start looking at the penalties slightly more. I mean, there's 19 seconds happening for Skinner there. So he's effectively out of this race. 6 seconds for Tarrier is probably enough to make sure he won't score points tonight either. There is an important 3-second time penalty. It goes the way of Easy, who is definitely one of the front runners in the race so far tonight. But now we'll have that 3-second time penalty looming over him as well. I think probably a lot of the drivers just thought, well, you know, it's Austria. Time penalties are going to happen. It's okay if I pick up the 3 seconds here or there near the start of the race just to make sure that I have good track position and maintain an advantage over my rivals. But look at the 3 guys out in front, Testwill, Snipes and Nobile. They are doing a keep it between the lines masterclass at the moment. The gap from Tolu to P1 is now 19.3 seconds. We will keep an eye on it, because as soon as Testwill, Snipes and Nobile come into the pits, which they will do, they will not be able to take these hard tyres through to the end, you wouldn't think. In fact, there goes Snipes. Look at that. So the Haas coming into the pits already. We're gonna see if Tolu comes out ahead of Snipes. I feel like this might be relatively close, you know. Pretty sure Tolu has done enough though. He's gonna see Snipes here in the background. There you go. We saw the Haas just about exiting the pit lane there, but Tolu does end up ahead of Snipes after that pit stop for the Haas. Medium tyres though, to be fair, to take Snipes through to the end. So will in the initial period have a bit of a tyre advantage. And with Golden Egg Fryer between them, has the advantage of DRS as well. So all is definitely not lost there for Snipes. Nobile, by the way, got himself a 3-second time penalty, which is really, really unfortunate, running near the front of the Grand Prix. Testwill is bringing the V-carb in, so this is really the tester, but I think we will see Tolu come out into the lead of the Grand Prix shortly. I don't know if lots and lots of cars behind Testwill are following him. In fact, they're not. But Tolu should definitely get the jump over the V-carb. It's just whether Snipes is going to have anything to say now about this race win. Look at that, pressing down on the battery, trying to get the move done on Golden Egg Fryer, who is sitting P3 in the championship into turn 1. Snipes does get the move done, doesn't give the Aston Martin any space to play with, and with no DRS, Tolu now has to defend going into turn 3. Actually isn't going to bother too much. Snipes up the inside of the Red Bull, makes contact with the V-carb of Testwill in front. Ooh, I'm not sure if there was a little bit of wheel locking or what happened there, but Tolu has spun. Tolu has spun. Well, that could be very, very interesting at the end of the race. It was really hard to see from this angle what actually happened to Tolu. Did he lock wheels with Snipes? Look, I'll say that from where I was watching, it looked like Snipes had drifted left into Tolu on the exit of turn 3. But I'm not, please don't think that that is gospel, because that might not necessarily be true. It's really hard to see when you're just riding on board with the drivers to see exactly what had gone on. But it sort of looked like that for me. And if that is what happened, and then they ended up locking wheels as a result of that, Tolu was on the grass and just went off into a spin, then the order of this race could be very, very different come the end of it compared to what we imagined just by the finishing position of the cars. That is good news, though, for the likes of Testwill, who's essentially in the lead of the Grand Prix now, and everybody around him has time penalties. And I say around him, I mean, Snipes is still 2 seconds back. Easy, of course, is now in the pits, so we'll see Test Will move into the lead of the Austrian Grand Prix here. There it is. V-Carb on top. Just don't get any time penalties now, and you've probably won yourself a race. Great work by Test Will. Our pole sitter, by the way, as well. Good evening, PG. PG, you join us. Perhaps just a lap and a half after some pretty serious drama. Tolu was looking good for the race win. Honestly, really looking good for the race win. Got side by side with Snipes into turn 3, and we couldn't see exactly what happened from this angle, but something happened. Tolu and Snipes bumping wheels. Tolu went off into a spin, now finds himself down in P12. Doesn't even matter that he had that pit stop advantage on everybody else by going for the one stop. And yeah, just really disappointing for the Red Bull, but see what happens to Snipes. By the way, I think there was a bit of a move happened just there with Pinkweb. Maybe getting the move done at the start of Sector 3. Harsh drivers. Nobil puts in the fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far. And the Kick Sauber, how are these time penalties looking? Yeah, everybody's on 3 seconds. Unfortunately, Verklempt down there with 12 is basically out of the running. And LTK Terrier with 19 is having a pretty rotten time of it as well. I'm pretty sure somebody just got an extra penalty, but there you go, Nobil with the rear wing open through the second, is it the second DRS section of the track? I think so. Depends if you, yeah, I count the start finish straight as the final one, I think. Anyway, Nobil gets the move done. The Kick Sauber is up into P2, and it's a solid P2 because both drivers have a 3-second time penalty to their name currently. Golden Egg Fryer's put in another really solid performance today. You know, Golden Egg Fryer at the start of this race, for one reason or another, was down in like P18. Do you remember there was a point where both the Aston Martins were in P19 and P20? They were right at the back of the field. And Egg Fryer now, he's done 14 laps on the hard tyres, so it's going to be really, really rough over the final few laps, you would think, for the Aston Martin, but no way he wants to make a pit stop now. No way he wants to make a pit stop now. So Egg Fryer will just try and get these hard tyres through to the end of the race and end up in a respectable finishing position. Now, Test Will, I feel like, did have a gap of maybe around 2 seconds previously to the cars behind. He's trying to go very, very cautiously, which I think is the correct move because he doesn't have a time penalty, doesn't really need to take any silly risks. Even if Test Will were to get overtaken by Nobil or Snipes or even both of them in the final few laps of the race, he should probably still hang on to that race win. So you can see that the gap to Nobil behind is lowering, but I just don't think that's going to give Test Will too much cause for concern the way things are shaping up. This is heartbreaking though, because I think we were going to see a Tolu win based entirely off clever strategy, and then just the incident on track has made it all fall away. And I don't know really who was at fault for the incident, but it feels like somebody might be. Shelby then is very close to Egg Fryer in front and does have the tyre advantage. He's got 6 laps more life in these hard tyres than his rival in front. So I think we'll see the McLaren try and get a move done, maybe over the start-finish straight, although look at that, the dirty air, just making it really tricky to keep the McLaren pointing in the right direction on the racetrack and falling away a little bit through the twists and turns of Sector 3. Final couple of corners then. How close can the McLaren get to Egg Fryer in the Aston Martin in front? Looks like pretty close. Nice and late on the brakes, gets the power down early. I think over this next little section,
Shelby might be thinking about getting the move done here. So we'll ride on board for a moment. Egg Fryer, oh my goodness though, he has nearly 80% battery. He's got plenty of battery to try and defend with, and Shelby doesn't really have enough in the tank. He was looking at that inside line and thinking about it, although he's also having to defend from Easy in the V-Carb, who is right on the tail of the McLaren. This is going to be an intense finish between these three drivers as we approach the final 5 laps of the race. There we go. Nobil has overtaken Testwill now, but does have that 3-second time penalty. So again, Testwill might not worry too much about that, because probably now can just sit behind Nobil. Well, I was going to say with the DRS open, but the Kick Sauber has found some speed over these final few laps. He's already pulled out a gap of over a second in just a few corners. Great driving by the Kick Sauber. Great pace being shown. And there it is. It's a 3-second time penalty for Testwill. Now the race is on. Now the race is really on. We have 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. 4.5 laps-ish left to go of the Austrian Grand Prix. And Testwill does now need to battle, because Nobilt is currently on his way to a race win. Easy in the middle of all that, got the move done on both Egg Fryer and Shelby, with some very fresh hard tyres, by the way. And we see Shelby side by side, Egg Fryer up the inside. We've seen Snipes make that move work around the outside a few times tonight, but Shelby can't quite position his McLaren in front of the Aston Martin. So Egg Fryer hanging on to P5, and I think that's correct with all the time penalties. Yeah, until you get down to Verklempt, at the moment, everyone's on the same sort of time penalty situation. So the finishing positions are, you know, where they are on the screen. Unless people want to challenge some of their warnings, of course, which can happen. Snipes has fallen off their old way from the cars in front. Snipes not really in the battle for the win of this race. Testwill lined up on pole position tonight. A great qualifying lap by the V-Carb driver in very, very tricky wet and rainy conditions in qualifying, but now is having to give it absolutely everything just to maintain well, I'm going to bank on we will not see we will not see an overtake quite like that throughout the rest of the season. I am not sure what the hell happened there, but we do have a new race leader, and it is Testwill. He's out ahead of the Kick Sauber after Nobil somehow phased through the V-Carb. Okay, there it is. There it is. Weird connection things are happening. Your graphic settings are quite nice to watch. Oh, that's cool. That's cool, Chef. I mean, I'm on PC. I don't know if that counts, but I also don't have the greatest PC in the entire world, to be honest. But I mean, the game looks pretty good anyway, doesn't it? This year, I think it looks pretty good. Right, I'm gonna have to try and keep up with some of these battles then. Where are the battles happening really? This one here from, well, Arbon's not really involved, is he? But from Pinkweb, Shelby, these three are going to be locked in a little bit of a struggle come the end of the race. Nobil is still very, very close to Testwill, and for the moment it looks like he's just keeping his battery percentage high and waiting for the right moment to strike. I don't think Easy is going to have much chance of getting anywhere close to Snipes, so Snipes probably has that final podium position wrapped up for the moment. Be very interesting to see the fallout though from that incident between Snipes and Tolu that did decide the outcome of this race. There you go, Pinkweb getting the move done. The Alpine with the rear wing open, but the McLaren's going to be right up the inside as they go side by side into turn 3. Little bit of wheel bumping, and you see Egg Fryer getting close to both of them behind as well. Egg Fryer then with the DRS open, looking to get the move done now onto Pink Web down into, is this turn 4 or 5? I can never really remember. Does just about manage to maintain the traction on that inside line. The Alpine not giving up just yet though, and does now slot in behind as we see Pink Web slot into P7. Little Red Bull Ring action, absolutely, Mr. Bojangles. There has been drama and controversy tonight, but Nobilt is back out in the lead. Now, has Nobilt teleported into the lead like he teleported into P2? It's really impossible for me to say. Arbon gets himself another 3-second time penalty. That's going to affect the finishing order come the end of the race. But just to keep everybody aware, as we now start the final lap of the Austrian Grand Prix, I don't know what is going on with Nobilt. Everybody has more or less 3 seconds. There's a couple of 6-second guys in that field. Test Will. I mean, I don't know what's happened to the Kick Sauber. Yeah, we missed the change of leadership, but the Kick Sauber's been like jumping all around the screen. I think he maybe look at that. There you go. What about that for a change of lead blitz? You ever seen anything like that in your life? A new race leader, thanks to the time-traveling upgrade that the Kick Sauber have brought to Austria. Test Will is now in the lead, so I don't really know what's happening. Yeah, it's screen freeze or desync. Something weird's going on. But currently, it looks like Test Will has won the Austrian Grand Prix. But I'm so sorry. It's actually really hard to say. Nobilt is very, very close behind, but he's not going to have enough left in the tank to get the move done. It is P2 for the Kick Sauber. Easy will take the final slot on the podium ahead of Snipes then. So Easy rounds out the podium, P3. Snipes in P4. Shelby P5, Pink Web very close in the end, but only good enough for P6. Arbon's going to fall down a little bit because of that extra time penalty. But this is really the story. Tolu, with the one-stop strategy, had the opportunity to win the race and had that coming together with Snipes on the exit of turn 3. Somebody will need to look into that from the end of tonight's race. But take nothing away from the guys in front. I mean, what a race by Nobilt. I don't think Nobilt was that high up the order after a wet and rainy qualifying. So great stuff from the Kick Sauber driver. And in fact, we have 2 V-Carbs on the podium. Test Will is your race winner for tonight. Nobilt takes P2, and Test Will's teammate Easy rounds out the podium, taking that 3rd spot. Hello, Sage. How are you doing? We are coming to the end, everybody. Some people are just joining. And B-Rad, thanks so much for the subscription, by the way. I do have the notifications off while we're doing the racing, just so that I can try and concentrate on what's happening on screen. But yeah, thank you very much. But, you know, race is over. You get a little nice podium celebration. We can see Test Will celebrate. Should have been hashtag should have been Tolu. Hashtag should have been Tolu. But take nothing away from Test Will. Qualified P1. Did everything right during the race. Ended up with a 3-second time penalty late on that's probably sent shivers down his spine a little bit, but managed to somehow maintain track position against a teleporting quantum Kick Sauber tonight. It was the Kick Sauber was really in a super position tonight of both P1 and P2 at the same time. But in the end, Test Will comes out on top and wins the Austrian Grand Prix for Tier 2, Round 6 of Revolution Season 13. Everybody, thanks very much for chilling out. I will be live tomorrow with XCOM 2, A Star Wars Story. And then I will not be live all weekend, unfortunately. So if you fancy joining us for XCOM, that's going to be tomorrow around about 8 o'clock UK time. That will start. But that's the end of the race. I'll be back with more commentary on the racing next week, of course, Wednesday, 8 o'clock UK time. Or, in fact, I should tell you where we are. Next week. Canada. And then it's going to be the mid-season break. So the final race before the mid-season break next week will be Canada. If you want to tune in for that one. Anyway, I love you all a lot. Please be unspeakably and unreasonably kind to each other over the coming days. I will see you all really, really soon.